Hello, Fierce Factor. That was so energetic. All right. I am so excited about this episode. I am super honored to share with you today an interview with a high growth client of ours. I actually got a chance to go sit down at his office, 6 foot distant, COVID style, but meanwhile, at least in person, it was really awesome to have a face-to-face interview since I do so many of them via Zoom now with COVID going on. But I wanted to make sure that we all had really got all of the juicy value that we can get out of this incredible physician. This is a high growth client of ours who has made some extremely difficult and in some ways, I'd say counterintuitive decisions during COVID. And he's just flat out reaped the benefits by doubling down on some of the intangible areas in his business. And I just have so much respect for this physician as I've worked with him over the past 7 months. And, without fail, the creativity and agility he has shown, he has just been in strict alignment with his core values around team. And it's just something to be touted about, to be honest. He's a typical overachiever. After graduating magna cum laude from USC, Dr. Josh Waltzman attended the University of California, Irvine, where he was accepted into one of the country's pioneer dual degree MD MBA programs at the Paul Merage School of Business, and then accepted directly from medical school there into highly competitive combined plastic surgery residency at the University of Rochester in Rochester, New York. And this is a program with a long tradition of training leaders in the field of plastic surgery. And following his residency, Dr. Waltzman decided to pursue additional subspecialty training by completing an advanced aesthetic surgery fellowship at the internationally renowned Cleveland Clinic. Dr. Waltzman is an active in influential research in the field of plastic surgery. He has written book chapters and published research in various prestigious medical journals. Make no mistake, Fierce Factor, this man is the real deal. It was truly an honor to have this interview with this high flyer physician and business owner and client and friend, and I truly hope you enjoy it as much as I did. So without further ado, here's my fun and insightful interview with the one and only Dr. Joshua Waltzman. Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaeli Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Hello, Fierce Factor. I am so excited today to be actually filming and broadcasting from 6 feet away from one of my very favorite clients, Dr. Josh Waltzman.
Thanks. Glad to have you here 6 feet away.
I know. This is so fun to actually be face to face. There's just energy in the room. So Dr. Waltzman, he is a board certified plastic surgeon who operates here in Long Beach. He has one of the most amazing practices and a team that just lights up your day when you walk in. Absolutely. It's a privilege to work with him and his staff on a regular basis. And I really wanted him to come on, and he's had like 2 hours of sleep. So I feel extra special that he squeezed this in for us today. As many of you surgeons who are listening to this know that routine. But I wanted to talk with him about truly how he has stepped up and really accelerated his business and thrived through this pandemic and through so much adversity this year. And he's really built his business truly organically. And from my perspective, just with such an intense focus around building his team, building a team that can create iconic influence in the community with patients, referrals, etc. So I'm so excited for us to really pick Dr. Waltzman's brain and learn from him today. So Dr. Waltzman, thank you so much for joining us on the Fierce Factor.
Absolutely. Thank you. Glad to do this.
So I told in the intro, I gave a little bit of your background academically and whatnot, but can you tell us a little bit about your journey as a person, a human, deciding to become a board certified plastic surgeon?
Yeah, I guess we can go way back if you want, where it all started. So I was born and raised in Orange County. And growing up, I was really interested in music. That was it. Music my whole life. Played a lot of instruments, was super involved in school and with playing, with composing, doing all this stuff. And I was kind of pretty much directed in that, but I like science. And so I didn't really even think about becoming a doctor with any serious passion until really once I was in college.
Wow.
I started college as a music major. And once I realized I still love music to this day, but I wanted to have a stable 9 to 5, basically. Yeah. Now I have more than a 9 to 5 plus. It's a 9 to 5 plus. Yeah. But music just wasn't going to give me that. And for me personally, I just needed that stability. And so I figured that I would still keep music in my life as like a hobby, but it wasn't going to be my passion as my career. And so in college, I took a class, general education science class, and that really turned me back towards medicine and towards science. And just, I think it was seeing like the passion and the professors that they had at the college level for science that I was not exposed to like in high school, of course. That was like really the tipping point for me. And that made me kind of turn my journey towards medicine. And so in college, I decided that's what I was going to do. I went to USC for my undergrad, loved it there. I was close to home, but just far enough away.
Yeah.
That no parents are going to pop in and say hi.
But mom could still do your laundry if needed.
Exactly, on the weekends. And then I was fortunate enough to stay in Southern California, go to UC Irvine for medical school. And I also did my MBA at that point, which is totally relevant to kind of why we're here talking about these types of topics, I think.
Yeah.
Went through medical school, didn't decide until probably like my second or third year, probably my second year, that surgery was what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be hands-on. I like kind of that creative aspect from like my prior music life. And I wanted to do things and make an impact right there and have it done. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of pulled me towards surgery. Plastic surgery came along because I shadowed a plastic surgeon just on a whim and saw the whole vast variety of procedures that they were doing and the impact they were making on their patients' lives. And that kind of sealed the deal for me at that point. It's like I knew I wanted to be a surgeon. I found plastic surgery and that was it. And so from that point forward, like at some point in my second year of med school, I was just kind of, that was it. I was done. So kind of just put all my efforts towards checking off all the boxes. Plastic surgery is incredibly competitive to get into from med school. So there's a lot of hoops, if you want to call it hoops, or boxes to check to become a competitive applicant. And so that took a lot of time and effort to do that.
Commitment.
It's a lot of commitment to that. More delayed gratification.
Yeah.
Because it's a long road. It's a long road.
Yeah.
And then I was fortunate enough to match directly into a plastic surgery residency in Rochester, New York. So I went full on pretty much diagonal across the country, like as far away as you could possibly get it from Orange County, different climate, different everything. And I was there for about 5 years and my general surgery / plastic surgery training all at the same time there. And then I knew kind of at the end of residency that I wanted to have my own practice. I looked at some opportunities and some different practice models, and between my business education and just kind of how I knew I wanted to run my professional life one day, having my own practice was going to be most conducive to that. It was like high risk, high reward, but it worked for me.
Yes.
So I thought, okay, I'm going to start my own practice. Probably the best place to do that's going to be back home in California, where I already have some connections growing up with people. It's a kind of familiar community, but I thought this is going to be super competitive. I'm not the only plastic surgeon in Southern California.
No?
Newsflash.
Let me throw a stone.
Yeah. So I figured, what can I do to make myself more competitive in my market? And so I decided I wanted to do a cosmetic surgery fellowship or an aesthetic surgery fellowship. So I went to Cleveland Clinic and did that for a year. And that was so valuable just in maturing as a surgeon, maturing as a doctor, as a person, just having that kind of transition year from residency to fellowship and then into practice was so valuable.
Was there any business training during that fellowship period? Do you feel like there was elements of that or?
A little bit. I mean, going through residency and fellowship, you always have mentors that you can bounce ideas off of and ask them questions from a business standpoint. But oftentimes in academia, those people that have been there a long time have been in the academia bubble, which is great. I mean, it's needed. It's needed. Yeah, absolutely. But sometimes they haven't had the opportunity to do a make or buy decision on a certain aspect of the business because they're in this huge kind of bureaucratic hospital system. So while they're extremely valuable mentors to me from a surgical standpoint and doctors and people, they weren't the same resource I needed from like a business development standpoint. So residency and fellowship were kind of a break from the business side. It was much more the clinical training, obviously. But once I finished fellowship, I then had to like dust off the cobwebs in my head from business school, from undergrad and graduate school, and get that back, like to start my own business again. So that kind of brought me back to California, started my own practice, and here we are today, a little over 5 years later.
5 years. That's amazing. You've done a lot in 5 years.
When you look back on it, it's crazy.
It's impressive. So I'm thinking of like maybe plastic surgery residents who are listening to this and thinking about that maybe opportunity, like, and I have been told too by other surgeons that, you know, there isn't a whole lot of guidance or direction in terms of starting your own practice when you're coming out of obviously a residency for sure. But once you have a fellowship, maybe if you're training with an entrepreneur or something, but that's a risky thing. So like, what was it? And I don't want to throw you off here because we didn't really prep to talk about this stuff, but it's just, I think it's so important and interesting. What was it that gave you the confidence to be able to go take that risk and make the investment in starting your business? I know when I started my business, it was like me and my laptop. Like that was the initial overhead until I started building my team and my infrastructure. But you have a building, you need like a full team.
Right, exactly. So it was, I mean, it still is to an extent lean and mean. I mean, that's kind of how I've tried to be the whole time. But I mean, initially it truly was. So it was just getting into a basic office space of not building out more than I needed at the time. And now I'm like busting at the seams. But, you know, at the time, it's like, oh my God, I have this much overhead. This is my rent every month. I've never even made my salary's never even been this much is my rent my whole life. And now that's what I have to owe. So it was a big adjustment. I think things that kind of pushed me to do that were I knew I was moving in next door to a surgery center. So that was kind of like in my mind, like this was going to work somehow. Like if you build it, they will come. And I think like I had my office, I had a surgery center that was being built next door, and that's where I would go. And it was just like that kind of concept in my mind, like, and this is why I should be here. But I also did like kind of a market analysis of Long Beach area. And I knew personally, I didn't want to practice in Beverly Hills. I knew I didn't want to be in the heart of Newport Beach. And just from a competitive market analysis, that's where the business side comes in. I decided that halfway in between was a great option. And then I started looking at, well, who's practicing in this area now and what phase of the career are they in? Are they competitively looking for a ton of new patients? And are they out there like guerrilla marketing, or are they kind of slowing down and they have their established patients and they're just going to kind of ride it out from here on out? And that's, you know, no offense to all the surgeons. This is a great community of surgeons here, but there hasn't been a lot of new blood. Young blood. Maybe that's not the right terminology for a surgeon, but there hasn't been a lot of new faces in this part of the market for a while. And so I thought it would be a nice place to settle. I grew up not too far. My wife's family is from Long Beach, and I already knew some of the doctors in the community from going to med school here and just growing up. And so that was kind of how I took that leap, that I knew the community I was going into. I kind of knew that I wasn't going into the heart of Beverly Hills with 6 other plastic surgeons in my building. I knew I was going to be the only plastic surgeon here in my building. I had a surgery center next door. I knew some of the doctors in the community already. And then it was just a lot of palpitations and sleepless nights. Just taking the plunge. Yeah, exactly. And at a certain point, you just have to.
Well, I have to say, like, I bet going through that process of having to be uncomfortable and kind of have sort of a mental agility, right? Through that's probably conditioned you a bit to have sort of the tenacity that you have going through a pandemic, wouldn't you say?
I think so. I mean, it takes some wherewithal to just jump in and hang your own shingle. I mean, having no patients, like 0 patients day one, and just kind of pounding the pavement. Literally, that's what I was doing in the beginning, was making folders I went to Kinko's and made some folders and made a list of the different insurances I was going to take and the list of the procedures and surgeries that I wanted to do or offer, and started calling up other surgeons and other doctors that I thought would be good referrals in the community, and just had lunches with them and like literally just called them up and introduced myself and said, can I come over and meet with you for 5 minutes or whatever it was, and just start being aggressive and going after it. I mean, if I didn't do that, it wasn't going to just come to me.
Right. And then you were able to get some reconstruction cases, right, through that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Totally. I think the fact that I was, and still do, take insurance and do some breast reconstruction and skin cancer reconstruction, that definitely helped to launch my practice for sure. Initially, during the first couple of years, as things were kind of getting rolling, getting their own momentum, for sure that helped.
Yeah. And then you've done an absolutely fantastic job of really converting a lot of those insurance cases into, lifetime patients who are like, oh, thanks for that. Now it's maybe Botox and filler and then other procedures. And So let's talk a little bit about, because 4 years, I don't know, I feel like our industry just moves at lightning speed. Are there certain trends that you're seeing in aesthetics, maybe from the time you started your practice to like now as we've evolved 4 or 5 years later?
Yes, I think in general, at least in this market, and this is like what's so crazy about it, like these trends vary all across the country, like these little micro markets of what people are looking for. But California was always like bigger is better. One of those that it's the more
almost right. It was what's her Pamela Anderson, right? And
exactly. Right. So now I think that the pendulum is swinging the other way, and I think definitely patients looking for more natural results. At least I find that's who's gravitating towards my practice. That's my own kind of personal aesthetic, is more natural. But I think that's a big shift. Whereas in the 90s and maybe early 2000s, it was a much more done or operated look, was much more in. That's what patients were looking for. Whereas now it's kind of, patients don't want other people to notice that they've had something. It's kind of that keep them guessing type mentality. Or they think they've had something, but they say, oh, did you go on vacation? Well, no one's going on vacation now, so we know the answer is no.
Did you get rid of one of your kids?
Did you just get a new Zoom background? Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's kind of what people are looking for now, is that if something is different, but people can't put their finger on it. I think minimally invasive and less invasive is always a trend, and that's continuing to evolve. Technology is getting better, and so I think that those are great treatment options. So that's kind of where I see aesthetics in the last 5 years or so since I've been in practice.
So I read an article recently that the COVID patient, like now we just want to be more homely or stately or more granola. I don't know. I can't remember the verbiage that I read, but I was like, I have to say, I haven't had an interesting putting polish on my nails. And I'm like, literally my whole life, that's never been the case.
I mean, think about how much money you've just saved for everything else in your life over the past 6 months.
Oh, no, for sure.
So yes, I think there's part of that, but also we've seen like an interest, whereas I thought, number one, as soon as we entered this pandemic, like people were going to be storing cash under their mattresses and very cautious and like save for later because you don't know what the future holds. And well, I'm sure people are doing that, and I'm doing that too, but people are motivated to do things for themselves still. And whether it's vacations that were canceled, postponed, or other purchases that have been put off now, people have some disposable income and they want to feel good still about themselves. And that hasn't changed. And even more so to your point, like people are staring at themselves in that Zoom screen all day long. So I thought, okay, so maybe surgeries people are going to do, but then fillers and Botox, forget about it because that's even less invasive and there's no recovery. Like this is more even disposable, I guess. But no, people are looking at the wrinkles even more because everyone's looking at the little icon of themselves and how they look in the Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
And so that has actually not dropped off at all. I feel like, if anything, people are more incentivized to make these little changes.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
No, it is. And I know we talked about it when, March, April, when the doors were closing and we were like, what the heck? What can we do? So let's talk about that, about how you really have been surviving and the things that you've been doing to stay successful through COVID when doors were closed, all of that. Where do you think you attribute your results to, or the kind of coming out on the top, so to speak?
Thank you. I think, we've tried. It's been a conscious effort. So I think one of the keys, it really is communication. I think ultimately that's what it boils down to, is that number one, we never closed our doors. Even though we weren't seeing elective patients and I wasn't doing elective surgeries, I still had at least one person here answering the phones every day. So there was always a voice connected. We continued posting on social media, giving updates about what's going on. We actually got more into social media during that time because we weren't seeing 30 patients a day in the office. I think letting people know that we existed and that we were here for them and we're going to come out together through this whole thing, I think that really helped. I think just that constant communication with patients the whole time. So when we were able to fully reopen and have all of our staff come back to the office and start seeing patients again, it's like everyone knew that was going to happen because we've been communicating the whole time.
Yeah.
The other thing was that, and this was a hard business decision to make, but I think it was ultimately the right one, was that when we were all kind of shut down, we had a lot of patients that were scheduled for surgery at that point, and office procedures and OR procedures and everything. And people were unsure of the future, and a lot of people wanted to cancel their procedures or postpone, and they wanted refunds. And I made the conscious decision from like day one that we were going to fully refund anybody that wanted a refund. We were going to give them their full thing back, even though they'd signed their surgery payment policy. No questions asked, full refund. And that was just my policy.
Right.
And we did that. And it was like, financially, it scared me every single day because I saw like a couple patients this day, a couple that day, and just seeing like the bottom line was only negative each day instead of positive for a while. Just kind of in my mind, I was like, okay, they're going to come back. They're going to come back. They're going to come back. And they did.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think that was the right decision because people were unsure. They were in some hard financial times for some of them. And this was going to be a make it or break it for them. And we were in a position to do it, fortunately. So I think that also really helped us kind of come through with a lot of these patients because I can't think of one that hasn't already had their surgery now or procedure or is booked to have it in the very near future.
Yeah.
So I think that was another key thing that we did just as a sign of like goodwill.
I mean, I think it's just such a testament to the value system that I know it bleeds through all of your team members, you know, just having conversations from my perspective with them. They're always talking about that patient being a lifetime customer of yours and not looking at these procedures as transactions. And I can only imagine how difficult that was, but I mean, imagine how cemented that trust is and the loyalty now when they know like, hey, I'm in good hands and Dr. Waltzman's team is going to be real with me, you know? And I think that just goes back to your leadership style. I want to talk to you about your team because you do manage, you have a team of 6 women here.
Yep.
You also have 4 women at home, your 3 daughters and your beautiful wife, right?
I have a male dog.
And then you have Coda. Yeah, exactly. And then, all your reps,
Exactly.
And so what's it like being surrounded by a team of strong females?
It's an experience. It's an experience. I'll give you that. My wife says it's my destiny. If she hears this podcast later, she'll find that very funny that I mentioned that. But she says it's my destiny to be surrounded by women.
What does she mean by that?
I don't know. That either it's a punishment or a reward. I'm not really sure how she means it.
Depends on the day, probably.
It depends on the day.
Or the time of month.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think it's interesting. I mean, until I got into practice, I never really had to. One, I was never a manager, owner, CEO of everything. In training, you're kind of moving up through the ranks, but you're definitely not the highest in any sense of the word. And then the next day, you're a boss of your own company, even though it's small at that point. And so all I can say is thank goodness I started with 2. I didn't jump into the whole swing of things that we're at now. But it's been great. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to having like another male around. Yeah. But I mean, it so happens that my team is all women right now. And it's good. I mean, I think talking with women and working with women is a little bit different. Sometimes it's without getting too gender biased. I mean, there's more emotions involved. Men tend to be much more black or white with a lot of things or don't hold on to things as much. And so there's some management of that, but it's worked out well. I mean, we have a really tight-knit team. There's definitely a sense of like when a new employee comes into our practice, they kind of have to be like approved by all kind of thing. And that's just the nature of, I think, a small office too, is that you're kind of in everyone's business for better or worse. But that's how we kind of have this kind of a tight-knit family, and it works well.
So how would you describe your culture?
The culture is interesting to describe. I mean, it's very high-end, very professional, but it's very warm also here. I think that's one of the main differentiators and that's what our patients comment on a lot, is kind of that feel of family, that they come in and yes, they talk about their surgery and how they're healing. But then, and I can overhear it from my office when people leave, it's like they talk about how much they like their surgery for about 30 seconds. And then the next 10 minutes are spent talking about showing pictures of their grandkids on their phone or what they did over the weekend, or talking to my staff about where they got their haircut.
Right.
stuff like that, which is totally different than what I would have expected. But I like the culture that we've created.
Yes, I do too. And for the podcast listeners, Dr. Waltzman has, when you walk into his office, a shelf of photos, and there's a sign that says the face behind the mask, and there's photos of each of the team members with their families. It's just simply adorable and warming. When you walk into someone's house and it's so fun to look at the pictures. I just love that.
So that's kind of why we did that. I mean, the waiting room is supposed to be like sitting in your living room.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I wanted it to be. So it wasn't so clinical. But then during COVID,
minus the dog hair.
Right, exactly. We don't have little lint rollers everywhere. But during COVID, we realized there's this whole group of patients that we really don't see. We see their eyes. And even when I do surgery, like I see them in pre-op and they're wearing a mask. I see them afterwards, they're wearing a mask. And so we realized like they don't know us either. And what we fully, unless they go on our website, but they don't really interact with us without a mask on anymore. And so we just have this idea, let's just put up pictures in the front so they know what the heck we look like.
Yeah.
And it's been really cool. A lot of people have been commenting on it.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm impressed with that. I like that. So I really think it would be valuable for you to kind of share some of your advice or thoughts for other practice owners who are right now understandably feeling uncertain, really about the state of the economy, about the future. What's your advice for your colleagues for feeling alone and just not sure how to navigate the future from here?
Well, I would be lying if I said that I had all the answers on this one and that I felt 100% certain, because I definitely don't. I mean, I have a lot of mental fretting over this at night and wondering like, which direction do I take my practice? But I mean, I think the core things that I've been sticking by that I have no choice but to for the foreseeable future is continuing to invest in the practice, but being really prudent about how I do so. Mm-hmm. I've grown through this time. I've hired an additional, 1.5 employees.
Yeah.
We have increased the services that we offer within the practice during COVID, which is crazy to think about that we did that. We've done moving around of positions. We've done a lot of employee growth during this time. So I've been investing within it, but picking and choosing things and not going out and buying all the lasers and devices right now. And, I don't think this is the time for me personally to be doing that, but we've still been growing the practice. And the bottom line would show that. And from a business standpoint and our team morale would show that. Everything has been developing well. I think it's the long game at this point. There's no quick fix. I think practices that have been in existence, if someone's new, there's no way to sugarcoat it. It sucks, probably. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't imagine coming out right now and being 4 months into practice and having this happen. That would be unimaginable for me. Yeah. So I really feel for those practices, especially. But for ones that have been around for a little while and already have that machines in motion, I mean, I think it's just sticking to your core, your principles, really working on being efficient with how your dollars are spent. My accountant put it best, and he said when this whole thing went down, he said, we go into scorch the earth mode. And everything that's extraneous or not necessary, we cut it out right now and scale back and just get down to what you need to do your business. Yeah. And then start adding things back in. And that's literally what I did.
Well, I'm glad to still be around.
Oh, thank you. We kept you. We didn't scorch you out.
This is an essential expense, people.
That was essential. So I think that was fine from a financial standpoint. I think being really, really diligent and giving thought to everything that goes out and not just buying new devices and doing things without thinking about it. I don't think this is the time personally. Yeah. I think being consistent in your messaging to your patients and your marketing is important right now too. If you were all like kind of schizophrenic in what you were projecting to the public, I think that would be a bad thing right now. I mean, we've expanded what we've done during this time on social media, but we've always remained consistent to our brand image.
Right.
And so I think that's benefited us. We didn't go in some crazy other direction. I'm not all of a sudden dancing on TikTok because that's not consistent with us. And so I think those are good things.
Yes. Yes.
So that would kind of be my advice for other practices. Just kind of stick to your guns right now.
I think it's great advice. I think shoring up the foundation of the business that you have and leaning in on your patients and that connectivity and human connection is just valued more than ever now. And I think that that's really, I can see it. I've seen the evolution even in your messaging and your stories and your, the way that obviously you're building your team. So kudos to you.
And I think investing in the team, I think this is a great time to do that. And education, really developing the team is key, I think, right now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what's next then, besides moving out of your shoebox
our
office?
busting at the seams office, which seemed huge, by the way, when we moved in. Yeah. So having said, finishing up saying I wouldn't just go buy machines and do things. I am looking at expanding. I mean, it's been 5.5 years. We've kind of outgrown our initial space. I'm looking to kind of increase the offerings of what our brand can offer now, or what we've created, and take it from more of just a surgical office, although we do offer non-surgical and esthetician services and all these things. The next step for me is kind of creating more of a center more of a center of excellence for plastic surgery and for aesthetic procedures. And in my mind, I have ideas about like wellness and these other aspects that kind of go hand in hand with plastic surgery. And then to have my own operating facilities. And then, I can think real big about this, but I think physical expansion is the next kind of big move for my practice.
Awesome.
And that's been, again, I don't just jump into things. I think maybe it's a fault too, but like I think about it a long time, and when the time is right, I do it. But that's the next level for us.
Yeah. Well, as long as you're not just thinking, you're exactly. Analyzing, you're making strategic moves,
strategic. That's the word.
Okay, I'm going to throw a question in here because I'm just dying to know.
Yes.
So what instruments do you play?
Oh, that's a good question. So that's an ever-changing question too. So I started on piano, and I still play piano. We have a piano in our house. That was our wedding present to ourselves. And then I also played clarinet. That was what I was going to do for my career, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a random fact. Clarinet, saxophone. I don't play anymore, but I played tuba for like 4 years in high school, which is a really different instrument. And then I recently picked up bass guitar. Again, I used to play a little bit, but then I bought one the last year, and I've been teaching myself bass guitar now.
Wow.
So a whole variety of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, music was one thing that came really easy. Like it just made sense. And I don't know how it translates to medicine or surgery, but like the whole instrument thing to me they just make sense. And so it was fun just kind of picking up different instruments like as I grew up. Obviously I don't have the time to play as much now as I would like to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a major hobby of mine.
Yeah. Well, and I can imagine you live a high stress life, so maybe an outlet for you as well. But yeah, I played the flute a little bit.
Okay. My daughter just started playing the flute.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I loved it.
They're doing it virtually.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, that's all, you have, but I tried to play the guitar and my fingers got calloused and I gave up.
That's
and
the
I was like a wimp. Yeah.
Okay.
So signature question for the Fierce Factor podcast. What does the Fierce Factor mean to you?
I think it's about kind of, we've used this term in the past, but it really summarizes it as kind of the all-in approach. You just have to jump in with both feet on this one. In my experience, I think I couldn't have just kind of went halfway with opening my own practice. It would have never grown to what it is today. And so I think just jumping in with both feet and 150% commitment at all times, even when you're not sure what you're supposed to do with the situation or how to handle it, or you have to reinvent the wheel for something or whatever it is. I think just that commitment endlessly day after day and not giving up, I think is what it's about. And at a certain point you get there and you kind of like are riding the wave, but you don't realize that you just become more comfortable always in that mode now.
Yeah.
It's not that you've changed what you're doing. You just feel more comfortable in that zone.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it is for me, kind of.
Yeah. Burn the boats, right?
Yeah.
Like there's just no going back.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. No, totally. Awesome. Well, any final thoughts for our listeners, and where can they learn more about you or connect with you for your practice?
Yeah. So we are all over the internet. People Google the heck out of us. That's what they say. So that seems to work. So yeah, I mean, our website is waltzmanplasticsurgery.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and all these other fun social sites. If people use phones anymore, or people just text now, I don't know, but we do actually have a phone in our office. We can be reached there as well, or contacted directly through our website, and we do online chatting. Any other final thoughts? I don't know. This has been a great podcast. It's a lot of good information.
It has. Thank you for that.
No, it's great. I like talking about it. It's good to kind of regurgitate it all sometimes.
Right?
It's good. I like it a lot.
Yeah. It's a quiz about you.
Well, yeah, but it's fun kind of just like reflecting on it too. I hope it's useful to your audience. I think I
guarantee it will be. I think these are a lot of questions that a lot of people have right now, and you've just been exemplary. Also, I do recommend people check out your Instagram. Go follow Waltzman Plastic Surgery. They just have a really well done Instagram that's engaging and just do such a classy job with it.
Thank you.
I really love it. So Thank you, Dr. Waltzman. This has been fun. I'd give you a hug, but you know, I got to keep our distance. All right. Thanks, Fierce Factor. If you are a high growth aesthetic practice owner or leader looking to elevate your visibility, get in position to attract high-end clients, and stand out in a crowded marketplace, I'd love to invite you to join me for Iconic Influence, a 5-day high-impact bootcamp where my team will help you create a growth blueprint to ignite epic growth in your business going into 2021. Here's the thing. If you're doing any marketing at all this year and you're not doing work on your influential brand positioning, you are flat out leaving money on the table. Maybe you're an expert of your craft, but not yet a master of growing your business. Or perhaps you're a practice manager struggling to help your MD owner see the bigger picture to scalability. Or maybe you just have explicit ambition to create a bespoke growth system designed to produce 6 figures in revenue in your business every single month. If you are serious about effortlessly attracting higher-end patients and team members who recognize your brilliance, appreciate, support, and uplift you, this bootcamp is for you. Sign up now for free at www.klcconsultants.com/bootcamp and save the date for December 1st for a transformational experience. I'll see you there. Thank you for joining me for this episode of The Fierce Factor. If you enjoyed the show, please make sure you subscribe so you can automatically get new shows every week. I'd also love it if you left us a review. And come join the conversation online. If you're an aesthetic industry owner, operator, or leader, please join my free Facebook group, The Tribe of Fierce Aesthetic Leaders, a community of ambitious, purpose-driven professionals who collaborate and share best practices for growth in business and life. I'm honored you tuned in.